Hello, everybody, and welcome to another interview for Fellowship of the Golden Age. And today I have Rauno here. Hi, Rauno.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Neptune.
Hey. Um, so, as usual, when we commence the interview, I ask for your description of a separate self, like what a separate self is. So, could you share with us your version?
Okay, I see separate self as a role, like in a theater or in a movie that actually showed this in my vision when I was doing in a mathematical visualization. That when I first came into this world, that in order to embody here, you need to have some kind of role. It's like you need to have some kind of boundaries to be in this world. And it's just another way to say what separate self is. It is a role. It's like it's not core of our being, but it's the way we express ourselves to this world or how we communicate with each other, different people. And I can see there's like different roles. Like for example, it might be the way I'm expressing mine right now will be different when I'm talking with somebody else. I might switch into different roles.
Yeah.
And it's like a pre-programmed roles inside of me. And if I'm not conscious, I unconsciously choose these roles because the way I feel more comfortable to talk with somebody.
Yeah. And
And because I see this, the roles are dualistic because they need to have like I need to have like how to say that? I need to oppose or maybe it's different wording. It's the way I express myself. People automatically oppose me. It's a different way. I saw this way because I choose one role when I came here, and for example, fallen beings they choose to react to this role. So it's like a game, like in a theater, when you need to choose the role, people start straight away start to interact with you based on your role you choose. And that's why how I see the separate self. It's these are roles what we have taken on, the layers. Like I'm putting my jacket on, and this is suddenly the way I am different.
yeah.
It's just one way to in psychology they say it's a persona.
Uh-huh.
I'm communicating with other people or with the world with through a particular persona, and it doesn't have to be negative. It's
Mm.
maybe it might look like a positive, but it's still dualistic. So I choose a persona how to communicate with somebody, and even right now. Uh, as conscious I can be, I still feel I'm choosing some kind of persona how I express myself. Maybe I'm choosing I'm a spiritual person, how I express myself, or maybe my cultural background. I'm Estonian. I express myself.
hmm Yeah, I'm wondering, like, how much of it is separate self, and then because, like, even in that invocation we just did, and it says, I will choose who I'll be in how I communicate with whoever it is that I'm speaking with, and so I find, in all of my experiences with interviews or with just talking to people that, yeah, I always just adjust according to that person. Like and I think there's just this slight difference between, like, when we react unconsciously, we know that that's a separate self. But then what about when it's just, I'm just sensing who you are, how you're expressing yourself, and I'm doing my best to communicate so that you'll understand me. Like, how much of that, like, do you reckon they're both still separate selves? Like, or,
The way I see the separate self, It's just it's not who I am, who I truly am. If I see myself as a formless being and I need to communicate or interact with somebody, I just need some kind of vessel. So separate self is one way to express it. It's a vessel. It's not who I really am. It's somebody or something I have took it on. So that's why I mean it's more well describes the what is separate self. It's separated. It's not who I am. I've taken on something.
Mm. And so do you have an answer to who you are?
Yeah, if I'm really searching myself, asking myself who I am really, usually you find this people find I found myself that I can't when the question stops, I just feel I am. That's it. I just can define who I am. But in order to explain somebody or express myself, I need to define something. So I put some boundaries. This is who I am. This is what I am. This is how I see myself. But then it's not really who I am anymore. The best way to say who I am is be silent. And so other person can experience who I am and make up their own mind.
Yeah. So when I don't expect you to have the answer to this, but it's just making me think, like, when the masters express a teaching for us, we know that, they adjust depending on our consciousness, like what they're presenting to us, but we know full well it's not a separate self that they're expressing through, but they're adjusting for us. So in that case, like it's not a separate self. It's like, I don't know, the Christ or the Buddha speaking. Like, what are your thoughts on that? Does that?
Yeah, in this way, it sounds like yeah, when masters expressing themselves, it's not like they express into the separate self, but still there is some kind of self they need to express themselves. Even
Yeah.
after dictation, they're saying we are more than what we have just given right now, and we have transcended ourselves. But because they need to communicate with us, they need to still find some kind of need to put some kind of coat on. So like maybe different way. Like for example, Master Moore is speaking or giving a dictation. People have different visions. So Master Moore, who can be maybe they relate to straight away in the vision in the history. So who he was and how he looked like. But if you go into the deeper this way, so you feel more like this beingness. But I don't know how to explain that. It's actually difficult to explain that. That's
Yeah.
as you said. I don't know. Maybe don't have an answer for this.
Yeah.
But still, I see that these are selves. I see themselves. Maybe it's not always how we define the separate self, but they're selves, and they're not who we really are.
Mm, mm. Yeah. Okay, good. So, can you just give an example of a separate self, like a particular separate self?
Um, Maybe the most common or most obvious separate self is, for example, I feel great inferiority inside of me. I feel I'm no worthy. I'm to say or to do something in this world. But at the same time, I see the other part of this self who likes to be somebody, who likes to be known or somebody important, so people can recognize and maybe give me some feedback. Oh, you're very good. You're very great in this. So I can build something on onto this. But these are cells. They're
Yeah,
just playing with me. It's very typical, and I believe that many people have something similar. It's typical that
yeah,
we have inferiority and superiority.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah. It's something that really needs to be resolved. The
Yeah.
higher we move on the path, I find, like,
And the same thing I can maybe another example I can give is
Mm.
when I start my conscious spiritual journey in this life, it's like I'm taking on some kind of like a spiritual self. I'm now when I'm into these different teachings, I'm reading different spiritual books. Oh, now I'm spiritual. I'm not. I see other people out there material. They only think about chasing the money and building career and all this thing. But now I'm spiritual. I can meditate. I can see. Maybe I can feel and sense other planes or planets or beings or whatever. I'm spiritual. It's still the self.
Yeah.
It's. I see that it's. Um, you need to go through this phase. There's nothing when you're a totally material being. You go to the other side, the opposing part of this, and you identify yourself as a spiritual being.
Mm.
But later on, they come together and maybe they infuse somehow.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, that's another pretty common one and important to address. The masters keep reminding us about this. It's coming up in teachings I'm reading at the moment, but yeah, yeah. So what's your process with um working on a separate self? Like, how do you address it?
For me, it's as I was defining who separate self is, it's most important to see that self. Because if I don't see the self, I can do nothing. Because I'm more like I'm one with the self. So I need to separate myself from the self in order to do something. So that's why people say if you find in a hard spot, just step back. It's the same. I need to step back at least one step and look a little bit who I am, how I express myself, what are the feelings, what are the thoughts. I'm separating myself from this like energy pattern. How can I say that?
Hmm.
So the first part is to notice that this is a role I'm playing. This is the way I express myself. This is the way I interact with somebody. And this is not really who I am. I see that it's some kind of have kind of filters, but this is not who I am. And when I see that I'm more than this way I express myself or how I feel about something, then I feel I have a choice to make a different choice. So that's I feel that I'm becoming aware. I'm being more conscious about myself, and I can choose the different path. But that doesn't mean always that I can dissolve the self that I'm playing through. It's I feel that I need to make a choice that this is not who I really am.
Mm.
I'm more than this, and I see that this is a um, less than I am, and I don't want to play this anymore. I don't want to choose that anymore. And I sometimes I feel when I'm coming back that I haven't dissolved this self. Uh, so I notice that maybe there's something I like about this self. Maybe I'm too attached. Maybe I feel more comfortable to express myself this way or feel this way. So I need to look my attachments to this self as well, because I cannot dissolve that if I have attachment or maybe I like it. Sometimes it's easy to let go of something negative, but if what if it is positive? It makes me more whole or more important, but still itself.
Mm.
So
Mm.
it's 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 kind of like withdrawing from that. And the best way for me is becoming silent. For example, when I have an argument with my wife in some topic, and we go like in a dualistic way. She's saying one way, one thing, I say another thing, and suddenly I realized this is just separate selves how to communicate with each other. So the best way is to be silent, and then I start to notice the thoughts, the feelings I have inside of me, and then I have a choice: do I want to continue or not?
Mm.
Or usually because we both work the same way. Uh, we like to be conscious ourselves. So we go within and start look where these feelings, these thoughts are coming from. And
Yeah.
yeah, the best way is to withdraw from that self, the first step. And that's the most important. If I don't see that, I can take another step.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. I get it. And sometimes yeah, it does take time. Sometimes it crops up again. And then I even find when a separate self like comes back again, there's like another self that sort of will then react to it coming back, like feeling like bad that it came back. And it's just like, one self after another, like reacting and then a reactor that reacts to the reaction, and it's silly. But yeah.
Yeah, it can be also because uh, I see the self is can be like I remember that the masters actually have expressed that the ego is like a conglomerate of the different selves. Because if you don't look into the root of the problem, it might different selves can interact or play with each other, and they don't see how it actually when it's, for example, inferiority. It might start with something different. I might see that it's, oh, I want to be superior, that's why I'm inferior. But no, maybe it's something way back I have to go to see
Yeah.
what was actually caused that spring from this, and it had changed the different courses. So it's like have different disguises. It's sometimes really hard to see what is the root cause. It takes a lot of effort and a lot of digging, as I say, inside of me. I need to
Mm,
go more deeper and deeper inside of me to find this out.
yeah. I liked what because I've heard that a couple of times, the ego's the conglomerate of selves, and I see that. But I read in Guru Ma's book that she describes the ego as our attachment to the selves. So, the ego, like, can make that choice, like, I'm not going to let go of that role. And so it hangs on to that separate self. So yeah, we're either going with ego or with our higher self.
And maybe that's the thing when I was in the beginning was saying that it's kind of like I have to take some kind of role to interact in this world. But maybe I see that it's innocent choice because I need to take some kind of role to play in this world. For example, I need to choose when I'm choosing embodiment, I'm a male or female, for example. And but it's through this innocent choice, we don't notice how we have to start to build the different other layers. For example, I put first my shirt on, then I put my jacket on, then I put another coat on, and now I'm already confused how many layers I have. So,
Yeah, yeah.
so, and when I'm playing with different cells, and they might have a similar goals, and that's why it creates like a bigger energy entity. It's called like ego. The ego have a different selves. They have like similar goals, but and he is like I see the ego is actually more aware than the self because self is not self-aware, but the ego is more aware about the selves, like who's beneath him or her. So he can play with them because he needs some kind of energy to exist.
Mm, mm.
And like ego is for me, it's like a bigger persona. It's like a more bigger part of me who I think I am.
And it does take a lot of energy to keep the ego alive. Like I find it just takes a lot of energy to keep all those selves going. Like as you surrender them, it doesn't use up all the energy and light that's coming through.
Yeah, I it's hard to sometimes notice how I'm where my energy actually is draining. I remember that it was in Mother Mary's Abundance book when she was expressed that in order to do some kind of spiritual work, you need to have some kind of amount of energy to start doing.
Mm,
And when I'm not aware of my different selves, they can just drain my energy. I just feel I don't have a power, even to do the conscious work on myself to look into my psychology. It needs some kind of energy to look at. If
mm,
I'm after work, I'm too tired. It's really hard to do this. So, for example, to walk the spiritual road, you just need to have some kind of energy to do it. And when I'm start dissolving these small cells, I can feel more and more energized, and I can deal with the bigger issues after that.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I had a girlfriend and she was really, really wrapped up, I would say, in fallen consciousness. And I but it was good for me to observe because she was always in her mind going over all the stories that she had to keep, like a lot of them were lies as well, like and so she just spend a lot of time in just pure anxiety because that mind was just the ego was just going and going and going over all the different stories, like, right, they said that, I'll say this and that's how I said it, and sort of rewriting stories. And it just gave me a really good idea of like how much energy is used up, like, the lower you descend into an unconscious identification with these selves, like it's yeah, there's just no available light. Like it's a very dark place to descend to. So from our vibration, it's different, but yeah. So
The one thing that I have noticed as well, I remember that I experienced one time I was in a deeper meditation, and I felt my mind was rushing all the time. It's like it's how to say monkey mind, but it was very active, and I felt trapped in this pattern. And I just felt that I couldn't handle this anymore. And I felt I want to die. I just can't take it anymore. I want to die. And and suddenly I remembered that I remembered I was reading from somewhere. I just keep breathing. I'm focusing only in my breathing, just consciously being aware I'm breathing. And suddenly this self, or maybe I thought this way. I didn't have this concept of self this time, but I was seeing this as an ego, and suddenly felt this ego died in me. I meant the total warmth came inside of me. I just felt so relaxed, so warm inside of me, and all the struggle went away. And I realized this is what the people who struggle in this world, who wants to do the suicide, it's not actually they don't want to kill their body. If they
mm,
only knew that it's the psychology within them that needs to die. And I
yeah,
felt so relieved in this time. I said, oh, I don't need to die. It's the part of me who is not really am. This part of me needs to die. And when it dies, it's so good relief. It's suddenly I feel like a weight is coming off my shoulder. I feel so light. It's like you almost don't have a body. And I was laying down. I felt that I don't have any weight on me. And I
wow,
just wish that how many more people who struggle in this world, who feel they're trapped in some way or another way, just feel that it's the ego inside of you, it's the energy pattern inside of you that needs to go, not you. And it's good if you people can do this distinction. But this practice, being consciously breathing, helped me to go into this way. And I've noticed later on, you cannot fake it. I have had later on, I had the same similar experience. And I remember that one experience, and I wanted to reproduce this experience. I noticed you cannot do it. You need to be totally honest with yourself, totally sincere. Only then you can do it. It's like kind of like they're saying the Holy Spirit, you cannot grasp it. It comes when it only he or she did decide to come. You
yeah,
cannot fake it. It's not true. So you have to be very honest with yourself and very clear about. what you really want, and it's more like a surrendering than doing.
Mm. Yeah. Oh boy, I could just keep talking about this with you forever, but we do need to like move on and flow on with, can you start just sharing your journey, like your share what you want to share?
Okay, maybe the way I can start uh, this way is I felt my journey has been as Kim Michael's book, My Lives, something similar. When I first read about the book, I felt the same dynamic in my life. I always felt that this is not my natural home. I grew up in Estonia. It was part of the Soviet Union time, and I grew up as a like in a materialistic life. I had no spiritual concept, no religion in my life. It's all whatever I saw, just a typical life. Everything was material. And once I die, nothing will be left. I'm gone.
Hmm.
And I remember as a child, it was really hard to accept because I little bit felt there's more to life. And I think I was a teenage, some maybe 14 or 15. I found out that I had the possibility to go into the church. So I started to dig more into religion. And I straight away felt connected to this because I knew there's more to life than materialistic worldview. And it was great period of time because I always felt I don't like, for example, violence in this world. I always been pro to non-violent approach to every situation that we have encountered. And I found it in a church this, because people are more supportive with each other. They didn't want to hurt somebody. So I felt more related with these people who were in the church than in my everyday life. And and I remember at one point they wanted me to become a member of this church. So suddenly start to ring inside of me, no, this is not my path. Because I sometimes somehow feel that I can't be defined in a way that I'm a material or religious person. I'm more than this. So I start to search more, and I found like a new age path, different spiritual practices, different spiritual teachings. I was reading a lot of different kind of books, taking part of different workshops, and I remember that there was a part of my time I felt really interested about, like for example, UFOs, different meditation techniques, and it I felt more into this because it wasn't only one teaching. I liked the way, like a more broad spiritual approach,
Hmm.
and yeah, it was it was a different time for me. Okay, I have to remember how.
And so
Uh,
that was like through the like round 2000 sort of when.
Yeah, probably after I finished school, I entered into the like adult life or real life. I started working and meeting different people than I was growing up in my school time. So it was still mixed because I was still like going a little bit another extreme. Uh, I had some people around me who like a lot of drinking, partying. So after coming off from the church, it was like going another extreme. I started drink, having parties, but suddenly I felt it doesn't fill me. So I started to search more like a spiritual side of life. So I totally understand when people saying that who's saying that they have been drinking too much or something because I have been done through this phase. I know what you can experience this.
Yeah, me too.
And and I believe it's it's the phase we need to go through to have some kind of experience. So that's why we can relate to other people as well. We can understand what they have
Mm,
experienced. It's kind of like immersion phase. You need to go through this. But then after that, I still to see, when I met my wife, his father was working in the police, and he was very keen looking for who are the UFOs and unexplained territory. And that's why I was introduced into more like a different side of life, like conspiracy theories and all these kind of things.
mhm.
They were very fascinating, but I couldn't find how can I grow in this process? It's
Yeah.
just sometimes it was just information. It didn't relate to me. And at one point, I started to read these books about regression therapy, and I was searching how can I heal my psychology? How can I find the root problems in my psychology? And when I started to find out that we have had many lives, not just this lifetime, we have lived before, and I straight away connected to this. Yes, I have been lived before. I know that, and as I was reading books, I understand that people just been healed, that like a medicine couldn't help them. And people got healed just the way because they saw the from the different angles the problems they had before. So I started to feel that I need to go this way as well. I need to go into the root of the problems I have,
Mm,
just just in order to have different perspective, to have different understandings. And I was really drawn into this. That's why I started to learn some different meditation techniques as well. And I remember at one point I started to look into myself deeper as well. So I have when people saying the past lives they don't really exist. I don't know. I have experienced, and some people might say they are hallucination or visions or dreams or whatever. I don't know. I don't have a proof. But when I see something, I really know if this is true for me or not.
mm, mm,
And I've learned through this. There was another process in my life that I know that if you're really sincere, you want true answers in your life, faking doesn't help you. So I know the process when I'm trying to fake to know who I really am. I can see the different vibration, and that I don't want to go. I just want this wonderful feeling that I'm somehow home or I'm somehow more, but it's fake. So I noticed that I have to be brutally honest if I want to know who I really am. Only
mm,
then, that way, I can find out more. And the funny thing is, it's it's a process of surrendering. But the surrendering is not an act like you do. It's 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 one point it is like you need to do something, but it's not doingness. It's opposite, beingness.
mm, mm. Like when you're letting yourself just go into the flow and the flow carries you to what you're searching for. Like it's surrendering to the river of life in a way.
Yeah, kind of the same way. Yeah, because I allow uh, whatever might come up, I allow it to come up. Whether I like it or not, maybe it's too dark, or maybe I see some kind of. I haven't seen like demons, but I see these very negative energies. I felt this. I'm not very visual person, but I felt that, and even they're very sometimes very strong. I feel they can overpower me, but still I feel the key is into surrendering this. Only then I can overcome these strong feelings or strong this opposition inside of me.
Mm, yeah. Yeah, I even recognize and I'm sort of in a process of letting it go, but like a self that really doesn't want to acknowledge them, like acknowledge dark entities or fallen beings, um, because it's just too disturbing to really fully accept that. but I don't need it. It's like it's important to have that awareness that because it just explains a little bit more. Like there was one time when I had suicidal thoughts going into my mind, and because I understood, like I realized, I knew that the voice that was telling me to kill myself was not me. It was demons. It was something else. Um, yeah.
I've at one point I joined this like how to say shamanic retreats.
Hmm.
Uh, I really wanted, I wasn't only happy about reading books. I wanted to have more real experience. I know I did some meditation, but I was searching more deeper experience. So I find about this thing, drink ayahuasca, what they do in a shamanic retreat. And I really wanted to go into this. I wanted to experience that. And it was lasting maybe 4 years in my life. I have done maybe hundreds, maybe 50 ceremonies. I don't know. I haven't counted them. I've done this. And this actually was very interesting part of my life because I experienced the formless being more strongly, the formless being who I am than before. I can sense like a 360 degrees of myself. And of course I had this kind of different process that I felt I can relate and understand more people who are trapped in mind that like for example you said that the people who are maybe suicidal, I understand what they can feel. I have been in myself over there.
Mm,
And again, I've been trapped in my mind as well. But once you go into the surrendering process, you can see you are absolutely much more than this. It's
mm,
just a so very tense and small place to be. But it teach me as well when you're dealing with psychology. I have said to other people as well, you need to be prepared that you might see something you don't like it. You can see very dark things inside of you, maybe dark, violent thoughts or violent acts or whatever it's coming up. But this is okay. But you
mm.
need to go through this. You need to look at this. I remember that at one point as well, I was just, I don't know, it's actually really hard to explain that right now. That I I just let it all come up, what's coming from deeper from my subconscious mind.
Yep.
And I just made this pray that only that I can work with what I can handle right now. It's sometimes for people who want to go inside of them as well. Maybe they can do a little pray that they don't. It's everything doesn't need to come up straight away. You can work piece by piece. So, but yeah, if you see something dark inside of me and you can overcome it, it makes you actually more stronger and you feel more confident to go deeper and deeper.
Mm,
So,
mm,
I felt this period of my time when I was doing these ceremonies was very interesting because I went very deep layers inside of me, but it was really hard at the same time because you drink something. And as masters, I think in a web page I was reading, they're saying that you're giving away your free will when you're using different substitutes, for example.
mm,
That I'm not control of all of this, so I just need to go with the flow. And it's usually it depends about the person who's conducting this ceremony, about his understanding of life. It can limit you as well. So I felt that at one point I couldn't go any further. It was like I had a wall, I can't go any further, but I knew it, there was much more about life
Yeah.
than I was experiencing. And at one point, I found this Kim Michaels book. Actually, I know Kim Michaels before. We met in different circumstances, but I knew that I was thinking, oh, he had this Ask Real Jesus website. I was thinking, oh, the many kind of people talk about Jesus, many kind of different book about Jesus. I was just thinking, oh, this is typical another New Age book. It's or a New Age theory about life. I wasn't really going into this. But I remember actually my wife helped me uh, at that point because I was really in a difficult time of life because I didn't know what to do. The outer world, material world didn't satisfy me. I didn't have this experience what I wanted to have. And inside I felt empty as well. I didn't know what to do, where to go because all these teachings or the books what I had at the time, they didn't actually give me what I really want. I didn't find myself more like deeply. And she was saying that you really want to search something outside of you, or you want to go inside of you and start dealing with yourself. And I start reading these books about the
Yeah.
ascended masters, and I start working myself more directly, maybe.
Mm.
And there was a period of time I still was doing this ayahuasca ceremonies. And during the ceremony, I was reading invocations, but they had the different vibrations. And I remember that my one of my last ceremony was this way. I I asked masters to see how can I continue this way. And I know that they have expressed, masters have expressed, they don't usually show up the people when they use different substances. They don't like to approach at that time.
Mm.
But I felt the presence of the masters. And I felt it's like my the veil has been pulled off my eyes, and I saw what this ceremony is about. How this shaman is been tricking us. It's like a puppet from the bigger demon, and he was just saying these nice things, but he was very dark inside of him,
Yeah.
and the people around that as well. And I saw, I don't want to be part of this. I know I am more because always asked these questions. And even I remember when I had discussion with the shaman that about life and how we go, where we coming from and all these things. And the theories that he's giving me was so narrow. I just felt I cannot go. And I asked, what about after this when you say that? He said, no, 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 there's not nothing about after this. This is it.
Mm.
I said, I feel there's more to life. Like that's why I feel that I'm more related to the ascended masters because there's a layers. You can go different layers.
Yeah.
And when you discover one layer, you understand, there's more to life. And you go through this life, there's more to life. It's like a infinite path. Like you there's more to discover. It doesn't have like a dead end. That's it. Book finished. Last page.
Yeah.
So, and at the same time, I felt I need to drop everything what I was doing. No force-based substances in my life.
Hmm.
I don't want to drink. I did tobacco as well to clear my mind, but I felt no, I don't want any substance. I just want to pure myself and use only inner guides and find out inside of me. I don't want to force to find this particular pattern. I just want to go through this effortlessly or more. Maybe effortlessly is not the right way. It's like I'm willing to take what is given to me. I don't want to force to go more like I remember that the group we had in during this ayahuasca, it's like we felt like at one night we process what usually people go into psychotherapy. It's like 3 years or 5 years. It was very tense. And sometimes the 4 hours lasted like 3 months for me. It's timing was totally different. You lose the normal sense of time in this way.
Mm.
It has always the counterpart because you when you go very high, you can straight away you can drop somewhere in the really rock bottom. So
Mm.
I don't want these extremes, these high and lows.
Yep.
I just want to go more like a steady way. I'm going this way, I'm going next way, and this way. It's yeah. Actually, it's been in my life when I've heard about other people talk about their journeys. I feel I always go in more like a smooth way. I've been in one extreme or another, but I never go like too far. I like to go more like a steady way.
I hear. Definitely. Well, guess what? It's time to close up. Is there any one last thing you want to say, like to bring closure, or do you feel like you've told enough of your story?
Maybe I don't know. I feel little bit strange because I had a different vision how I want to describe my journey, but
Yeah.
somehow it just felt to go this way.
Yep.
But yeah, the key points that I feel that help me on my journey is don't be afraid to look inside of you, whatever might comes up. And I have told other people as well, if you really want to know about yourself, be brutally honest. Be brutally honest. Don't hide. Don't play with yourself. Don't seek to find some kind of quick or shortcut. Be brutally honest and see what's coming after that. And this has helped me. I'm not saying that I'm reached somewhere now. I'm enlightened or very high consciousness. No, I still have. Actually, it's opposite. The
Mm.
more I remove the layers, I feel, oh, there's so much more to do.
I know.
It's like a, it's like a, I don't know. You open this box and it's endless. It's endless.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
But still, these different teachings have helped me that don't be afraid and just take one step at a time. And that's what I'm trying to do every day.
Yep. Yep. All really good advice and good insights, like bang on. So, my dear, it's time for us to say goodbye. So, thank you so much for joining me for this interview, Rauno, and have a beautiful day. And I just know, like, yeah, I like what you've expressed. I know I get it, like how you've talked about something which you weren't particularly planning on focusing on, but I can see why there's a lot of value in what you've just shared about that snapshot of your journey. So thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Okay. Bye, everybody.
Bye.